Hello, my name is Lauren Smith, and I will be giving a presentation on Ruth Ann Reinfeldt. Just a little bit about Ruth's education and her background. Ruth completed her undergrad degree from Puget Sound, and it was in psychology. And then she moved on to get her master's and doctoral degree from the University of Nevada. Here we have a picture of Ruth. Ruth has been the author or co-author of a lot of different articles, almost 100 articles and book chapters to be exact. Ruth also was the editor of the Psychological Record for 12 years. And this was a journal publication that B.F. Skinner was also a editor for a number of years. She has also been an editorial board member for other psychological journals. I picked 5 journal articles that Ruth either authored or co-authored, and I split them up into some different categories. The first category with 2 articles is personal articles. Ruth wrote one article about being a female and being in academia and kind of her career and what all went into that. She gives advice to others trying to pursue a career. One advice that I took away that she gave was to keep in contact with your mentors or past professors. She said this really helped her build a relationship with them and continue to maintain that relationship, helped better her career with different opportunities that arose from those relationships. She also wrote an article when she first became the editor for the Psychological Record. This was about her kind of views of the history of the psychological field and also where she hopes it would go in the future, and kind of laying a foundation for what she thought was important to appreciate from the past, but also where she wanted the field of psychology to go in the future. The next section of articles I grouped together as more research-based articles. One of the articles was about a man with autism and an intellectual disability. He was having conversations about specific topics that only he was interested in. Some of those topics include sirens or alarms, coughing, and different appointments that would come up. And in this experiment, DRA was used to give eye contact for conversations that weren't about those specific topics. And the result was that the conversations with those specific topics of sirens, alarms, and coughing and appointments went down after using the intervention. Another research-based article she wrote was about graduate students and the impact of receiving points versus not receiving points. And after that research was over, she found it was more likely that students would turn in assignments when given points, but ultimately the quiz scores for these students were not impacted and were not affected. The last article that I found was an instructional article. It was about very detailed step-by-step process of how to make an activity schedule using Microsoft PowerPoint. I thought this was really interesting and shows Ruth to be a really good teacher and to want to kind of help further everyone's skills in maybe using technology while teaching children. And I think that was really interesting and just a cool article. I'd never really seen or read an article focused on instructing people how to learn a new skill. So I thought that was really interesting. As far as my interview questions for Ruth, I think that I really would like to know kind of what made her want to pursue a career in ABA. I always think it's interesting to find out why people want to be in this field. I would also want to know what piece of work that she wrote that she's most proud of. I think that would be really interesting to find out what she thinks of her own work and what she is proud of. Also, I would want to ask her, what advice would you give to someone who's nervous about taking the BCBA exam, as she has experience with this and it's something that is personal to me, and I would love to get her experience on that and her advice for maybe some tricks and tips that she might have. And then my last question for her would be, what has been the biggest obstacle in her career? I think sometimes it's really important to learn about other people's struggles and how they overcame them to maybe inspire yourself or to use techniques they might have used to help yourself. I think that Ruth is a really important person in the psychological field. All of her 100 articles and book chapters can now be used to support future research that could be done in this field. And I also think it's important because she does look to the future and she does try to be innovative and wants to really focus on what the field could become and trying to get there the best way she knows possible. I also think it's really important to point out that she supports and encourages women in the field. I think this is really important because a lot of times there aren't as many really strong role models in the field that are women, and it's really cool to see someone who supports other women in the field and makes it a point to do that. Here are some of the resources that I used to create this presentation, and there are also some picture resources that I used. Thank you so much for watching.